All right, so this lesson is taking a look at angles on circles. So the first question we're looking at here is where is 90 degrees on a circle? Well, that really could be in all sorts of different places unless we are very solid on and agree on where we start from and which way around we're going. Because like if I, for instance, decide that I want to start going straight up and then going this way around the circle, I'm going to end up with a very different description of where an angle is than if I started, say, going this way and then went around this way. We'd end up with very different descriptions. So let's actually make sure that we know what kind of the mathematical standard is. When we measure angles, 0 degrees is straight over to the right. So that is where 0 is. And then we go counterclockwise from there. And yes, we always measure counterclockwise. Even when it's a shorter distance to go this way, we still measure going around this way. So with that in mind, where is the angle of 90 degrees? Well, if I think about where a right angle would be, if I built it right there, you can see that that would put me going straight up. This then is a 90-degree angle, and we show that on the circle here just by that line that is going straight up. Now this whole lesson is just about where some of these different angles would look like on the circle and how we can know it. So next up is 270 degrees. Well, we know that 90 was straight up, right? Well, that means that this angle between that vertical and that horizontal, that would be another 90 degrees. And then from here to here would be another 90 degrees. And then if I kept going, you notice it's always just adding 90 degrees at every little quadrant as we go around. Well, how many 90s do I need in order to get up to 270? It actually would require 3 90s. If you do 90 plus another 90 plus another 90, you get down to 270 degrees. And so then this is where 270 degrees is. So 270 degrees basically then is 3/4 of the way around the circle. Well, once we've gotten our heads around that, then this one seems a bit easier because where's 180? Well, 180 would be 2 90s. So that would be the 90 here and the 90 here, which then would mean that 180 degrees is going straight over here. So this is 180 degrees on the circle. Now, knowing those particular angles, 90, 180, and 270, are going to be pretty useful going forward. You should really know those very quickly by heart. So if you don't right now, realize that that's something you're going to want to keep practicing and really get to know because it makes a lot of the math we do that deals with circles a whole lot easier for you. All right, now, where would the angle 135 degrees be? Because 90 doesn't go into that one all kinds of nice. But we can use what we just saw. And if we think about where those 90-degree increments are, then it's much easier to figure out where 135 degrees is. Because the first thing we would look at is, well, which of those two numbers is it between? And 135 is between 90 and 180. So we know it's somewhere in there. And it's just a matter of figuring out where in there. And there's multiple ways that people will look at it. Some people will figure out, okay, well, what's the angle between 90 and 135 by like subtracting them. If you did 135 minus 90, that would give you 45. And so that would tell us that it's exactly 45 degrees past 90, which is 45 degrees is exactly half of 90. So it's cutting that part right in half. So that's where 135 degrees would be. Now, what quadrant is 135 degrees in then? I want to make sure that you remember your quadrants and how we label those and name them because oftentimes we talk in those terms and I don't want you to get thrown off as we do so. Well, if you're not sure, then you might want to take a note on this because you can see how we name these quadrants. Quadrant 1 is in the top right, and then we go counterclockwise from there. Notice it's always counterclockwise. Therefore, 135 degrees is in quadrant 2. But we'll be able to talk in those terms and lots of different things as we go forward, as you'll see. All right, next question. Where is the angle 190 degrees? Well, the first thing would be, what quadrant is it in? And we know that because we know where 0, 90, 180, and 270 all are. So we say, well, which of those is it between? And 190 is between 180 and 270. So we know it's going to be in the third quadrant. Okay, now knowing that, where is 190 compared to those numbers? Well, the thing that jumps out to me is that 190 is pretty close to 180. It's in fact only 10 degrees away from 180. So I would then estimate that it's going to be about there to get to 190. For our next question, where would the angle 57 degrees be located on this circle? Well, which quadrant? It looks like this one's going to be in the first quadrant because it's between 0 and 90 degrees. Then it's just a matter of where. Well, we know that 45 degrees is exactly half, so it's going to be more than half. And basically, it's actually almost pretty close to 60 degrees, and you might actually be getting used to what 60 degrees feels like because it comes up so often. I'm going to sketch that in so it looks a little bit past half on the way to 90 degrees. So around there is a pretty good estimate about where it is. No, you're not going to be expected to be able to be perfect when eyeballing that. For our last question, we're going to take a look at where the angle 312 degrees is. Well, the biggest angle that we had looked at before and actually labeled was 270 degrees, which was down here. So we know it's more than that. If I went from 270 and went around the other 90, well, that gets us back to 0, right? But that 0 could also be labeled as 360 degrees because a full trip around a circle is 360. A single point on a circle can be more than one angle. Like for instance, this one is both 0 and 360 degrees. And it's actually something we're going to be looking at later on this year, where we're going to be looking at how we can have basically an infinite number of angles sitting at any one point on a circle like that. All right, but back to this problem. The 312, well, that is between 270 and 360 degrees. So then it's just a matter of exactly where. And for me, as I look at it, I'm thinking about, well, how far apart are 270 and 312? If I do 312 minus 270, then that gives me 42. So that tells me that it's going to be 42 degrees past 270. That's almost half of the distance. So I'm going to eyeball that in as being just short of half, best I can. So that's about where I'd say 312 degrees is.